First elected to Congress in 2010, I'm now joined by 1st District Republican Congressman Rick Crawford. Thank you for being here.
Yes, sir. Good to be here.
Good to have you back with us. So it's been a while since you and I have
We
had a
need
chance
to
to
do
do
this
some
more
one-on-one.
often. Yeah.
Well, I've told your press people anytime. You got an open door. Come on in.
That's right.
Let's talk about a couple things that are going on. Particularly, I want to start with highways, infrastructure, huge topic of debate in the state, huge topic of debate in the nation's capital. You have a little bit of influence in what's going on. Where do we stand at this point in time with a highway funding bill?
I would like to tell you that as a member of the Transportation Committee, I got all the answers and here's what it is. But here's the reality is that it has essentially been referred to the Ways and Means Committee because the policy part of it's ready to go. We can pass the policy part all day long, but we've got to pay for it.
Yep.
So the Ways and Means Committee, it's their baby on how they pay for it. Now we've done a couple of extensions, as you know, and most of those extensions have come with Ways and Means finding some creative ways through some tax maneuvers to pay for short-term extensions. As I understand it, and Chairman Ryan has been in our committee and he's talked to us about this, that he has a wholesale tax reform plan that will pay for a long-term bill.
But can it pass?
Well, I think it can pass the House. What we saw from the Senate was a 6-year bill, like the idea of a 6-year bill, but it's only paid for, they say for 3, but in reality it's more like 2. So that gets us back to the situation in 2 years about how we pay for the balance of that authorization.
What do you like in the Chairman Ryan bill that he has shared any details of in terms of Ways and Means? What's in it that you think is passable?
Well, here's the thing about Ways and Means that most people don't know. They operate like the Intel Committee. And so we haven't seen what his plan is, but we've gotten his assurance that it will move this in hopefully in the month of September.
So you have to just trust him on it.
At this point, yeah. It's
what do you
one of
hope
those,
is in it? What do you think would be in it that would be palatable?
Well, I mean, for one thing, we know the Highway Trust Fund is a flawed mechanism. And, you know, I was talking about this earlier with some folks that the last time it was adjusted was in 1993. And it's an excise tax that was not indexed, so it's flat rate. So it can only yield so much revenue over its lifetime based on this is a static number. And so when you see a contraction of the economy, so people are traveling less and they're traveling in vehicles that are more fuel efficient, you can see that the flaw.
Should it be indexed?
Well, it should have been indexed. And there's no way to go back retroactively and do that. So now it comes to this, are we willing to index the gas tax? And I can tell you this, there's no appetite for that on either side of the aisle because it's going to be viewed as a tax increase. And Barbara Boxer doesn't even want to raise the gas tax. And so when you have that kind of dynamic in Washington, then what you see is people in Arkansas start talking about raising the fuel tax here. So that's being bandied about here at the state level. Now what I would like to see happen, and I hope we can do this, and we're on track to accomplish more of this, is to give the states a little more control and flexibility and creativity in how they derive revenue that stays in the state.
What would that look like? Give me an example. A block grant? Or are you talking about something?
For example, if the state decided, because we did the half-cent sales tax a while back, and so obviously we control that revenue stream, and that's good for us. And we've seen the evidence of that. I mean, heck, I've driven through Little Rock today, and I can see the construction, and we're starting to see the results, the tangible results of that. But then you hear people talking about we might want to consider raising the gas tax 10 cents a gallon in the state of Arkansas. If the state wants to do that, that's up to the state. But the federal government is not going to put that pressure on them. If you know the states have the authority to implement tolls in places where it can work, then that's something that the state should be able to do without having to get further permission and studies and pilot programs and so on to make the case that tolling works.
Conventional wisdom is that only one road in Arkansas would probably work for tolls, and that would be the one that cuts across the state from Fort Smith to Memphis, basically.
Well, actually, even you could even drill down to Memphis, Little Rock.
Okay.
Because of 2/3 of the traffic there is truck traffic. Now we've got a little bit of an issue there because the trucking industry doesn't like tolls, and that's a key part of our economy. So we have to make some sort of accommodations for how we address that issue and still address the concerns of the trucking industry.
Would you be supportive of toll roads on that particular stretch?
Under certain circumstances, and I think right now there's some talk about it because, again, the way the law reads now, if you can toll federal capacity, the surplus revenue stays in the state.
Okay, so that would be a circumstance you would be supportive of.
That would be a circumstance that I would be supportive of.
All right. Good stuff on highways there. I appreciate your insight on that. Let's shift to some international matters. Obviously, in Congress, when you guys go back from recess, you're going to get an opportunity probably to vote to disapprove of the president's deal with Iran. First of all, I think it's very conventional wisdom that a vote to disapprove would pass. So let's say it gets to the president's desk and he vetoes it. Do you think that the veto could be sustained?
I think in the House, yes. In the Senate, that's going to be a tough hill. It doesn't appear that the votes are materializing to override his veto. So we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
All right. What in particular concerns you about that deal? I mean, there's a variety of things that have been raised. What's the main thing that you have concerns about?
You know, I think you got to go back to just simply bad negotiating where, for example, the 24-day notice on inspection, and then we've come to find out later on that in fact they can self-certify. Now, the problem I have with that is farmers here in Arkansas can't self-certify their on-farm fuel storage. So the federal government doesn't trust them to self-certify on 10,000 gallons of fuel, but we do trust the Iranian regime to self-certify on nuclear weapons proliferation. Makes no sense to me at all. And so I think there's a real problem there. The unfreezing of the assets that we have right now that will infuse them with $150 million or $1 billion roughly. Where do you think that money is going to go? Immediately, I think it would go to Hamas and Hezbollah. But long term, we don't know. Then we have the unfreezing of the embargo or the lifting of the embargo on conventional munitions and weapons going into Iran. That's problematic for us as well. So there are a lot of things that this deal just doesn't point to a good deal.
All right, let's shift to presidential politics. We have seen this past week Ben Carson in town. We've had Donald Trump, obviously Governor Mike Huckabee and Hillary Clinton have made appearances here. And Carly Fiorina, Ted Cruz. Carly's coming and Ted Cruz has been here. You got a pick in the race so far?
Well,
you sticking with the home state guy?
I'm a home guy. Yeah. I'm sticking with our friend Governor Huckabee. It's interesting to watch, and here's the thing that I like is, Arkansas is figuring much more prominently as a result of moving into an early primary and being part of that SEC primary. So it'll be fun.
So let's ask you, because I have not heard it officially. Are you running for re-election?
I am running for re-election.
All right.
Got a lot of work still yet to do.
You're geared up and you're ready to go.
I'm ready to go.
Last question, because I'm getting the wrap-up sign here. Red Wolves, what's the win-loss record this year? Give me a prediction.
I think we are 7-5, and I think we upset Missouri Tigers.
Oh, I like it. It's a good prediction. I'm going to go 8-4.
All right.
I'm going to one-up you on that.
Okay, good deal.
Congressman Rick Crawford, I appreciate it.
You bet.